This is the All Aboard the Climate Train rally. And my name's Arvia. I've been a climate activist since I can remember. And we're here to ask our legislators to invest in Amtrak, passenger rail for Washington. So when you see your legislator, can you ask them to please invest in Amtrak so we can get around Washington in a climate-friendly way? We have some expert speakers here today and musicians to get the campaign going. And our first speaker is Herb Krohn, and he's from Labor, and he represents Amtrak, and he's going to be speaking to us now. Thank you, Herb, for stopping by.
Hi, I'm Herb Krohn. I'm the State Director for Smart Transportation Division, formerly United Transportation Union. I don't represent Amtrak, I represent Amtrak employees and employees on the freight railroads and some short lines in Washington State. We're the largest rail workers union in America, and today is a very sad day for us because once again we have had a national agreement forced on us by Congress. We have not been allowed to negotiate or use economic pressure to improve our lives. Rail workers are being disciplined, terminated for being sick, for illnesses in family, for bereavement, for taking unpaid time off, time that every other worker in Washington gets paid, and we're only asking that we not be disciplined for these absences. So your sign behind me says rail can't wait. That's very true. We support increased investment in our rail infrastructure that helps both freight and passenger. And of course, movement by trains is one of the most fuel efficient ways to move anything. Steel on steel and trains are exceedingly energy efficient. And we've got an energy issue in this planet and an environmental issue with fossil fuels. We need more rail and we need better investment in it. But what I have to say is not only can rail not wait, rail workers in this country cannot wait to get time off when they need it. Fatigue is epidemic on our railroads, particularly on freight railroads that operate with no schedules. People never know when they're going to work or when they're coming home. They never have railroad workers in the freight industry work their entire lives, many times without having any regular sleep cycle, rest cycle, wake cycle, or even eating cycle. You can't make plans with your families, you can't do anything. And the railroads have, through their precision schedule railroading programs, have cut jobs and expected the remaining workers to do more and more and more. And we're at the breaking point. We're tired of being disciplined and fired for needing time off work to take care of ourselves and our families. It's really appalling what's happening out here, and it's appalling that we couldn't get a better deal. But here in Washington State, we're going to be introducing, once again, the Safe Unpaid Leave Act for Washington rail workers. It'll be introduced in the Senate by Senator Cooter. We're not sure who's going to introduce it in the House, but we'll be pushing it again this year, and we need everyone's support. Rail workers are entitled to the same time off that everybody else gets. Even if the state can't make the railroads pay us for it, we can at least not be disciplined for it. And we support investment in any way that we can. We need more trains, more rail, more freight, more passengers, and we need good facilities and first-class operations to make this work. And our members on Amtrak love their work, and they enjoy the work that they do, and they enjoy helping people and providing the service to passengers. I know that our state, more than a lot of other states, is very pro-rail and does more than most other states do, but it's still not enough. And we'll do whatever we can when we can to work with you and help you. And we ask you to do the same for us so that we get treated like human beings. The plight of the American railroad worker is pretty sad right now. We're working on the freight lines in conditions like existed in the 1890s, and it's appalling. While the railroad profits in the freight industry are through the roof. Greater profits than they've ever seen. and they don't want to give us time off. They don't want to hire enough people to allow us time when we have a sick relative or we're sick. And we've had people who have been disciplined and fired for having COVID, for family members being sick. It's just been an appalling situation that I've witnessed, particularly over the last 10 years or so. And we need to get this solved. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Always happy to answer questions and do what I can. Bill knows that. And so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Well, that was just a really important update, I think, for this group about the rail workers, and we really appreciate Herbert Crone for coming by and giving us that update. And now our next speaker is Tim Gould. He's a transportation activist. He's an engineer working in the field of air quality. He's worked for many years with all different organizations like the Sierra Club, the Union of Concerned Scientists, and Climate Rail Alliance. And one of the things about Tim that is really great is that he's a really loves riding rail, and he has 14,000 guest points on Amtrak. So Tim really understands what investment in Amtrak can do for our lives, for rail passengers. So Tim, take it away.
Thank you for that introduction, Arvia. It's really important that we come up with climate solutions that will deliver for us in a timely fashion. It's really clear, we've seen all kinds of excessive weather events, that we have a climate crisis on our hands. But rail can be one of the solutions to that crisis. As the UN Secretary General has said, we have our foot on the climate accelerator, and there's no sign of letting up. And that's really where we are with our transportation system in this state. The greenhouse gas emissions from transportation far exceed those from any other sector. But by effective investment in rail, we can actually help to reduce those climate emissions. As Herb had mentioned, rail is the most energy efficient form of transportation in terms of reduced energy usage per ton mile or per passenger mile. We need to be able to leverage that effectiveness and improve the rail system in the state of Washington. And it's exceedingly important that we get started on that this upcoming legislative session. And so when it comes time to make those decisions on where the transportation dollars go, we need to doubly emphasize to legislators the importance of climate solutions, environmental solutions that rely on better rail systems in the state. Not only is there climate advantages, but other environmental advantages by emphasizing the rail transport system. For example, car tires produce a lot of rubber particle pollution that ends up being lethal to coho salmon. So the more goods, the more people transportation that we can mode shift and have on rail, the better for the environment. It's a win for the environment. It's a win for mobility equity by providing more travel options to people who wouldn't have other available options to them. And it's a win for the climate to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions. So as the sign says, rail can't wait because, let's face it, the climate won't wait. We need to act. We need to make sure the legislature puts forward the funding necessary to go after the federal money that's out there. Don't let them off the hook. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you very much, Tim. So our next speaker is one of the founders of Climate Rail Alliance, Leah White. and she's a community activist, a healthcare provider, and co-founder of Climate Rail Alliance.
Thanks, Arvia. And really well said, Tim. Thank you for your words. I'd also like to point out that our vision for rail improvements in the state is not really a new vision. A practical solution and also economically sound, and not really a new vision, because the Washington legislature has had this vision, or a lot of components of it, since the late 80s and 90s, when they crafted the long-range plan for Amtrak Cascades. And only a small portion of that plan has been funded, and only a very small portion has been completed. So we just want to revive that vision and get it going now, quickly, because rail can't wait and the climate can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Lael. And now we have the other founding member of Climate Rail Alliance, Tom White. Tom is a mastermind.
You know, if I was so much of a mastermind, we wouldn't be here trying to get their attention. We're being told that it's not a thing. EVs will cover everything. We need charging stations, and that's part of the legislature's thing, is charging stations. Well, if you go back to the physics, a train's contact area with the surface is the size of a dime. A non-resilient wheel on non-resilient rails on the size of a dime. The contact area on a car tire is the size of $1. Resilient wheels on resilient pavement. It has to be that way or you'll skid off the pavement. So that's what makes trains 2/3 less energy and 2/3 less emissions if you run diesel. When you put that into the context of how much electricity do these charging stations have to have, just in Washington, the equivalent, if you turn the amount of highway fuel that is burned annually in the state of Washington into electricity for EVs, it's the amount produced by 2 new Grand Coulee dams, or hundreds of square miles of solar panels, or hundreds of wind turbines. That's just to replace the fuel plus all the other electricity that we're going to need. EVs are not a happening thing. It just is not going to take care of it. And we need for the folks over here to understand that we need effective rail transportation, the way that folks in Europe, Asia, even Africa have done decades ago. And we're just now catching up to where they were in the 60s. So with that, I'll turn it back to Arvia for the next person.
And now we have our musical inspiration from Karen and Annie. Annie Phelan and Karen Davis, who are folk musicians from Washington State. And please fill out your introduction, because I know that you have done so many wonderful things. You guys ready?
So, in the interest of not leaving people out here freezing, we're just going to do one song that we just put together yesterday. It's called Climb Aboard the Climate Train. Yeah, we didn't have this one before yesterday, so thank you for the opportunity to have a new song. With apologies and thanks to Elin Jewell, who supplied the inspiration and the tune from a song of hers.
Let's harness the wind, soak up the sun. Green power's better for everyone, we know how.
Go tell all your friends and pick up the phone. Greta Thunberg can't do it alone. It's on us. Yeah, no one else to blame. So climb aboard the climate train. Yeah, all aboard the climate train. Thank you, everybody.
And we heard it for the first time?
You did.
That was just beautiful and so inspiring. Thank you so much, Annie and Karen, for coming out and being with us. Thank you so much for being with us. It was just so beautiful and inspiring. And our next speaker is Bill Moyer, who is co-founder of the progressive organization Backbone Campaign. Bill and his communications team provide a lot of support for activism, and he's done lots of training for different organizations and been a lead in many different demonstrations and rallies. He's published a book in 2016 about freight and passenger trains and how they can benefit us and also provide electricity. So Bill's very involved now with Eastern Washington, and so take it away, Bill.
All right, cool.
All right, everybody. Nice to see you here. It's really fun. I think this is a really unique moment because here we are talking about trains, and we're not just Solutionary Rail or Backbone. It's Climate Rail Alliance and Rail Can't Wait Coalition. And here we are. When was the last time you came to a train Rail Can't Wait rally? And you braved the snow and the ice. I mean, I think it's pretty outstanding, you know, that we're all here together. And I just want to recognize that a lot of people did a lot of work. If the camera could go over and look at this beautiful sign, Trains Can Save Salmon. Rod Tharp and Jeff Snyder are two members of the Backbone Campaign's Builders Guild and longtime friends. And they created that beautiful piece and many other things, including putting together and making sure we had a train here today. And then Amy Morrison is the deputy director of the Backbone Campaign. Nothing really happens at Backbone without Amy's work. So I just think it's really, we should everybody should give ourselves a hand for the freaking being here. So I think we've all learned a lot because railroad stuff is kind of complicated and it can be a little intimidating, you know. And so I know that I've learned a great deal, and I've learned a great deal from folks like Tom and Tim and others here who I've worked with over the years and collaborated with Mary and Brent. And so I think I wanted mostly to say start with just that we should be grateful. We're in a new place in terms of our growing awareness and our own literacy around rail and its function, its role in our society, and as we like to say, you know, it's a solution that's hiding in plain sight. And it's not just a solution for climate, it's a solution for a lot of things. So yeah, over the last 10 years, Solutionary Rail started by looking at the electrification of rail nationally and how important that could be. And in that process, we also realized that we could achieve just, you know, as much or more by just getting freaking freight off of trucks in our roads and onto trains. Because even in Washington State, it's about 54 billion ton miles of freight that leaves Washington State and goes more than 500 miles on trucks each year. Each one of those ton miles means that's greenhouse gases, that's emissions, that's road wear and tear, that's lives being sacrificed on the freeways. So it has incredible public costs when we over-rely on roads and under-invest in rail. So we've got a lot to gain by switching the orientation here. And we really need more vision in Washington State. not for ultra high speed billionaire boondoggles, but for actually practical things that help regular people and regular businesses and normal communities get their stuff to market and move themselves and their people they love. That's what we need to focus on, because we can do that right now. And like Leo mentioned, where's the sign? Hey, washed more trains. So the sign that was about there we go, look, finish Amtrak Cascades long-range plan. If we freaking just did that, add the extra track to add the capacity, we could eliminate so many of the people that are driving north to Vancouver and south to Portland. And Tom White was part of creating that plan many years ago. But it's sitting on the shelf collecting dust. So we need to do that. And as Arvia mentioned, you know, the last year I've become fascinated by what's the role of short line railroads, and how can we use railroads not just to save the climate, but also to save salmon and to save the small communities. And so in Western Washington, saving salmon might be getting the freaking cars and trucks off the roads. In Eastern Washington, and especially Southeast Washington, what it means is getting rid of the Snake River dams. And to do that, we have to provide farmers a competitive, robust rail system that offers them price competition and that they can afford to use and that serves them. And what I love about going over and is taking a look at a place like Eastern Washington or Southeast Washington is kind of the same thing I love about salmon, and the same thing I love about rail, and the same thing I love about rivers, is like those things, rail connects people who you normally might not be able to have a conversation with. And we really need, I think, in my personal, my heart needs to be able to connect with people that don't want to talk to me about other political stuff. My heart needs that. My heart needs to be solving problems with other people, you know? And what I love is people in Whitman County and Columbia County and Grant County and Franklin County. These people love trains just as much as we do. And they want to be able, they are pro-transportation. And they're pro-salmon, but they gotta be pro-transportation. They gotta be pro-farmer. You know, when I stopped in Rosalia some months ago, and the librarian said, wow, I'd sure love to be able to take a shuttle train to go see my doctor in Spokane. Well, she can't drive because she had a stroke. She needs that kind of service. Well, Washington State owns the freaking rail that goes from Marshall to, from basically Rosalia to Spokane, or really Pasco to Spokane. But they've allowed it to not track to go at a surface from a little bit in the south section of that. Folks are ready for a change, and even folks that we don't necessarily agree with on everything else, are ready to not leave money sitting on the table from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act or the Inflation Reduction Act. They want to claim that money. They want to make the investments for the future. This is the time. We're not going to have another time. We have not had a time like this in our entire lifetime, where there's so much ready to be invested, so much funding to be invested. And so we need a vision that is a rail-based vision that is connecting communities, and it's expanding the capacity, the connectivity, and the usability of our railroads. So I hope that we can all go ahead into this legislative session and be the vision, help provide the vision, because it's not going to come necessarily from the top down. I think we can be pretty sure of that. And so it's time for us to be the visionaries, and look at us. We're all together, and we can do this together. And we're stronger than we've ever been before, and we have great allies, and we have great resources, and we have the ideas to make a better future for rail and transportation and communities and the climate. Thanks very much.
Nice. Oh, that's great. So now we have some time for open mic. Would anybody like to come up and maybe share a personal story about rail and what it means to you in your life and how it might change things for you? Would somebody like to? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, my name's John Rosenpepe. I'm a private citizen. For rail, I've been fortunate in the last 7 years to be in Europe, to go visiting and hiking, and have the opportunity to take the rail around. And it's so simple, it's so easy, and it's really criminal we don't have it here. I know when I lived in eastern Washington, reading about the interurban trains between the different towns, that were all torn up and gone, and it was a way of life that we can return. And I'm really excited. Just to let you know, for one summer I barged salmon through the dams for the Army Corps of Engineers. Science, technology was going to save the fish. But so I know that area. My ex-wife was in veterinary school, so I drove around a lot in eastern Washington. And so watching Bill's presentations when he talks about this junkyard, this silo, it's like I visualize it. And so for me, this is something that I've been there and it can happen. And as Bill says, the money's there, we probably won't see it again. So I hope everyone contacts their representatives, and thanks everyone for being here.
That's a great story. Anybody else? Okay, well, wonderful. So we're getting close to the time to go into the legislative session. So this is the assembly days, and the Senate Transportation Committee is going to start at 3:30. So that's in 25 minutes, and we'll actually do a little march around before we go there, but just to let people know, and that's in the Cherbourg building, room number 1. And the House Transportation Committee is at 4 o'clock, and that is in the O'Brien building, room B. And just to kind of recap before we take our little march around the campus, we have a vision here. We have a coalition of different groups. Our vision is rail solutions in this decade. That's really important. I think that's been said today, but I'll just reiterate it. This decade. Climate can't wait, rail can't wait, we can't wait. It has to be this decade that we have transformative investments in our regional passenger system and our regional freight system. So that's the vision, and that's the message, and thank you all for carrying that message to your representatives. This is highly doable. We've talked about the money. It's there. It needs to be spent on the right things.
Highways just get wider. They take up way more land. There's a name for this old game. It's called induced demand. Tell your legislators it's time to choose the best. When talking about efficiency, railways pass the test. We're fighting tooth and nail. On climate, we can't fail. Get emissions down from town to town. Induce demand for rail. Get emissions down from town to town. Induce demand for rail. Thank you.
Let's harness the wind, soak up the sun. Green power's better for everyone, we know how. Just gotta fan that flame. So climb aboard the climate train. Temperatures rising, sea level too. Gas-powered engines belching CO2, electricity. It's the name of the game. So climb aboard the climate train. Where fish gotta swim and birds gotta fly. Undam the rivers and clean up the sky. We can't have no more of the same old same. So climb climate train. Take it away. Read on the river and fish on the road. Who thought of that one? God only knows. It's no good, it's no good, it's no good. It's a crying shame. So climb aboard the climate train. Go tell all your friends and pick up the phone. Greta Thunberg can't do it alone. It's on us. Yeah, no one else to blame. So climb aboard the climate train. Yeah, all aboard the climate train.
What can't wait? Rail can't wait. What can't wait? Rail can't wait. What can save salmon? Trains can save salmon. What can save salmon? Rail can save salmon. Who can't wait? We can't wait. What can't wait? Rail can't wait. What can't wait? Rail can't wait. What can save salmon? Rail can save salmon.
Yeah.